Reducing the idea of you to fan fiction is another example of dismissing women's art. In recent years, there has been a growing trend of dismissing women's art as fan fiction, or simply reducing it to a derivative work inspired by male artists. This trend is not only harmful and disrespectful to the artists themselves, but it also perpetuates harmful stereotypes and limits the visibility and recognition of women's creative contributions. One recent example of this trend is the criticism of the novel The Idea of You by Robin Lee. The novel, which tells the story of a 39-year-old woman who falls in love with a much younger pop star, has been dismissed by some critics as nothing more than fan fiction, inspired by the real-life relationship between Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde. This reduction of the novel to a mere imitation of a male artist's work not only undermines Lee's creative talent and originality, but also diminishes the value of women's stories and experiences. The dismissal of women's art as fan fiction is not a new phenomenon. Throughout history, women artists have often been marginalized and their work devalued by critics and scholars who view their creations as mere imitations or adaptations of male artists' work. This harmful stereotype not only limits the recognition and appreciation of women's art, but also perpetuates the idea that women are incapable of producing original and meaningful work on their own. In reality, women artists have been creating innovative and groundbreaking art for centuries, often in the face of significant obstacles and discrimination. From the pioneering work of female writers like Virginia Woolf and Toni Morrison to the groundbreaking art of painters like Frida Kahlo and Georgia O'Keeffe, women have consistently pushed boundaries and challenged conventions in the arts. To dismiss their work as mere fan fiction is not only insulting, but also erases the unique contributions of women to the cultural landscape. Moreover, the reduction of women's art to fan fiction reflects a broader cultural bias against women's stories and experiences. In a male-dominated society, women's voices are often silenced or marginalized, and their stories are frequently dismissed as less important or relevant than those of men. By labeling women's art as derivative or unoriginal, critics and audiences perpetuate this bias and reinforce the idea that women's voices are not worth listening to. The dismissal of women's art as fan fiction also has real-world consequences for women artists. When their work is devalued and marginalized, women artists are less likely to receive recognition, support, and opportunities for advancement in the arts. This can have a detrimental impact on their careers and their ability to continue creating meaningful and impactful work. To combat the harmful trend of reducing women's art to fan fiction, it is essential to challenge stereotypes and biases that devalue women's creative contributions. Critics, scholars, and audiences must recognize and celebrate the unique perspectives and experiences that women bring to their art, and resist the temptation to compare their work to that of male artists. By elevating and amplifying women's voices in the arts, we can create a more inclusive and diverse cultural landscape that values and respects the creative contributions of all artists, regardless of gender. In conclusion, the trend of reducing women's art to fan fiction is a harmful and disrespectful practice that undermines the creative talent and originality of women artists. By challenging stereotypes and biases that devalue women's creative contributions, we can create a more inclusive and diverse cultural landscape that values and celebrates the unique perspectives and experiences of women in the arts. It is essential to recognize and elevate women's voices in the arts, and resist the temptation to dismiss their work as mere imitations or adaptations of male artists' work. Only by valuing and respecting the creative contributions of all artists, regardless of gender, can we create a more equitable and inclusive cultural landscape that reflects the diversity and richness of human experience.